Hey guys, what's going on? It is Bebe. It is Sunday night, which means it's time for the I-71 Playbook Podcast. With me, as always, is BC.
What's up, BB? Happy Sunday night.
Happy Sunday night indeed, sir. Unfortunately, though, we need to start with a little bit of a little down note. We lost some Cleveland royalty this week. The age of 91. Unfortunately, we lost Cleveland Indians legend Rocky Colavito. Um, I from what I remember, he was actually kind of up and moving around and kind of spry. He was at opening day and things like that. So for 91, he really looked on the ball, but unfortunately, it was his time to shuffle off to the great game in the sky. So
Walk out to the cornfield.
that's right, rock out through the cornfield, indeed.
Yeah, once again, Cleveland Indian great. Retired for the Indians. Number retired for the Indians. Rocky Colavito. We're obviously a little too young. It's nice to say that for a little too young to have seen him play, but 91 Cleveland legend. Hats off to the family. And
Mhm.
once again, what a career! What an Indian.
Absolutely. We had some big news also for another Cleveland legend.
Yeah. So on a happier note, um, one of the cooler things, and I think I want a big picture here and kind of step back. Um, us as Northeast Ohio sports fans are really blessed with the people that we have had here for most of our lifetimes call games. Um, we lost Jimmy Donovan earlier this season. Legend, one of the best to ever do it. And he followed Nev Chandler, who I don't know if people remember, but Nev Chandler was the voice of the Browns in the '80s when I was a kid, and once again, spoiled. Uh, just just
Absolutely
just
spoiled.
just a treasure trove of riches when it comes to Browns calls. Then for the Cavs, I grew up having to watch. I remember WAB 43 games and then listen to him on the radio. And the voice of the Cavs, Joe Tate. And I personally got to work with Joe Tate when I was in college. He was also the voice of the Mount Union Purple Raiders. And so he did
Really?
he did he did the actual professional radio where I did the college radio. And there was
That's all. How did I not know this?
yeah, there was
In
not a
10 years of friendship, you've
I'm
just like neglected to say that,
it's full of secrets.
I've rubbed elbows with Joe Tate.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, just hobnobbing with local legends. It's no biggie. Uh,
that's called burying the lead, my guy.
literally one of the nicest, warmest people I'd ever met. He a couple times, when I was in college, I was thinking about radio. Radio was definitely serious. I did an internship. I did some radio shows at Mount Union, and it was a possible career path, which is kind of fun. Why I get to do a podcast now. This is yeah, I get to kind of scratch that itch now.
There you
Um,
go.
but I sat down with him a couple times and just talked, and I was not a bother to him. He enjoyed sharing his knowledge of the business. Uh, just gave great advice that I was able to use when I was doing Mount Union games, and like I said, just not a nicer soul, and in my opinion, the greatest basketball play-by-play guy ever. And then once again, that treasure trove of riches this week, um, the best voice in baseball, Tom Hamilton, Hammy. Uh,
Hammy,
all the way from the corner of go,
Ontario and East 9. No,
Carnegie in
Carnegie and East 9.
Ontario. You failed.
Wait, I do fail. Oh my God. I need to hand in my Cleveland card. The corner of Ontario and Carnegie.
um, Tom Hamilton got into the Baseball Hall of Fame. He is going to be going into Cooperstown. I got to hear him on the Really Big Show this week. Tony Rizzo did a great interview of him, and just the pure joy. Of course, being the humble nature, saying was not deserving. Oh, Hammy, you're deserving. You just are incredible, and so many of our memories. He's been calling games since the early '90s. Uh,
1990.
yeah, and I can remember Herb Score, like who preceded
Yep.
him, and what a legend Herb Score was.
Well, and he started with
He
Herb
did.
Score.
Yeah, he did. He absolutely
So
did, and got the job after Herb Score passed, and no looking back. Some of our greatest memories of the Indians and now the Guardians. I mean, just this past playoff run was amazing.
mhm.
Tom Hamilton is just absolutely. I don't know even the word to say, but he's just absolutely ingrained into our collective psyche in Northeast Ohio. So yeah, so going back, Jim Donovan, Joe Tate, and Hammy, congratulations from our little pod to you and your family. The credit he gave to his wife during that interview was just fantastic. So congratulations, Hammy, and can't wait for the years to come with you as the voice of the Cleveland Guardians.
And it was actually so this was actually the third time that he was nominated for the Ford Frick Award, which he actually won. Um, so actually, no, I'm sorry, fourth time.
Fourth time, yeah. Yep.
I can't read tonight apparently, so that's fabulous.
Well, you're getting a
Um,
double dose. Like you had to deal with the Browns, and I say deal, and now you're having all these emotions with the Lions. So
it is BC. It is too soon. I'm not. I can talk about the Browns because again, I went into this game. They're going up against the Chiefs, which means they're not only playing the team on the field, but they're playing the team on the sideline as well. In the red, in the black and whites. But then I've got the Lions. I've been, like I said, I've said before, I've been a Lions fan since I was a kid. Um, and they're 12-2 this year. So that has been the shining beacon of football hope on my weekends, where I'm not entirely like curled up in a fetal position and crying like a normal Sunday when it was just watching Browns games. But they pulled it within 6. They made it interesting. Um, but you know what? They'll dust it off and they will do things. One of my favorite Lions though did get his first career touchdown tonight, so I am excited for that.
who was that?
If there is any chance that this reaches to the depths of Detroit, number 70, Dan Skipper, you scored your first touchdown. He is the dude is literally like 7 feet tall. I'm not exaggerating. And the funniest guy ever. But we'll get into that later. But
He's
yes,
the one last year with the controversy, right? That did not report, or they said didn't report, but it certainly looked like he reported.
that is a whole nother
Yeah.
pod. And yeah,
Yeah, I thought so. If we're going to talk highlights to the football weekend, we're going to talk about the Buckeyes here in a little while. But shout out to my alma mater, the Mount Union Purple Raiders, as they are going to the Final Four. I really should have done some homework and saw it. It feels like they've been a Final Four team. I would be safe to say 28 of the last 30 years, I believe.
wow,
Going back, yeah, to 1992, actually, so 32 years.
all right.
They're a Final Four team. Their first championship was in '93, and they've been rolling ever since. So congratulations to the Raiders. Let's go back down to the Stag Bowl and let's get another championship, number 14. Let's do it.
All right,
Um,
go for it.
now, funeral march. I mean, the Browns game.
Go.
Yeah.
You have to.
So I want to do a quick rundown because it is going to we're in a place that we really haven't been for a little while. We've had some down seasons. Like it's like every other year has been good since what 2018 when Baker came around. It's like 18 was good, 20 was good, 22 was good, or I'm sorry, 20 was good, 21 was 20, yeah. It's been every other year. Today was rough. We really got to feel how far out we are, how far away we are from competing. This is a team that not only had playoff aspirations. I'll be guilty. Like I was going to pound the over if I was gambling on the over. I think the over under this year was 8.5, and I was like, oh, got that. It's not a problem. But
Do we though?
it's subpar quarterback play. We'll talk about Jameis and maybe the end of that experiment today. Subpar quarterback play, injuries. And it's all depressing. And Nick Chubb, as you guys, if the secret pod number 1 ever comes, you guys will see my valiant defense of Nicholas Jamal Chubb, my favorite football player in the world. Um,
The
and
lost episode.
yeah, he broke his foot today. He's out for the rest of the year. And BB, at this point, do you come back if you're
No,
Nick Chubb? You just retire Brown. Just retire.
I think he wanted to retire Brown, and unfortunately, I think it's going to come down to medically.
Yeah.
So I know he's your dude, and here's my thought process on this, just really quick, is the fact that the season was already trashed. I know his work ethic. I mean, everybody knows the letter that he sent out to the city of Cleveland. He wants to be the guy, and his work ethic wants to make him the guy.
By the way, if I could stop you right there, I just want the people to know, if I knew how to do any kind of links on here, I would link that Players Tribune article that he wrote to the city of Cleveland when he came back. Just wonderful, wonderful. Good.
It really is.
Shout out to you for that call out.
And he's a great guy, on the field, off the field, just a great kid. And I say a kid because he's not even 30 yet, but he has such a strong work ethic, that you forget that he's still pretty young. So here's the deal. Your season is trashed. You're coming back off of your second major knee reconstruction. I understand you want to get him into the game some, because obviously we need him. However, you need to figure out what else we've got. And clearly, in a game that meant absolutely nothing against one of the teams that is favored for yet another Super Bowl appearance, why? In the fourth quarter, or was it the end of the third quarter?
I believe it's the end of the third quarter. I was flipping between the radio call and the TV call, so I actually missed. I just saw that he came out of the game, but it was right around the end of the third quarter.
So it's late in a game that means absolutely nothing, and now we've lost him for not only the rest of this season, but does he come back from this at all?
And the shame of it is, and once again, an epic rant that did not make YouTube a couple weeks ago. He was showing signs. He was flashing. He was averaging 4.5 today. He broke out. Like, there was a couple times you're like, he's an inch or two away from breaking out. And then Jerome Ford bust a huge run. That could have been Nick Chubb, had he been healthy. It's a shame. I personally, selfishly, don't want him to go out like this. I felt the same way about Joe Thomas. I didn't want him to go out with an injury. Obviously, Joe made the right decision for his career and his family, and he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Nick Chubb, you can make an argument for the Hall of Fame for the years he was healthy.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
I think he still has good football left in him. I still think that's a guy who is just built differently, wired differently. I think we will see him try to play again. But if he doesn't, I completely get it.
Right, and I think he's going to have a real come to Jesus meeting, honestly, with not only himself, but with his family.
Yeah.
And just the risk versus the reward.
Yeah.
And I know, he's coming up onto a contract year. So he's already said in the press, he wants to retire Brown. So he wants to be here. The city wants him here. The mind, the heart is willing, but the body... But you're right. He is wired differently.
He really is.
He's not like every other person. So he's come back from these devastating injuries before, and a broken foot isn't necessarily a complete and total knee reconstruction. It's bad, but it's not. I don't think we're quite at panic mode yet. But it's going to be a wait and see, and especially with him going into contract negotiations.
Prediction time. Right around the combine. Okay. So that puts us in March. Okay. So right around the combine, we're going to see Nick Chubb squatting 600 pounds on Instagram.
Probably.
And then we're going to be all excited, and we're going to forget we had this conversation because we know that guy's going to be at training camp. Just my prediction. I'm calling it.
You know what? I hope so.
By the way, I'm wrong.
Absolutely hope so.
I'm legitimately wrong most of the time with my sports takes, so it's completely okay. The audience is here for you, not me.
I don't know about all that, but
So let's do a quick rundown of what we saw here, not involving Nick Chubb.
mostly,
Um, I was taking some notes today, thinking about the pod, and the first
mm,
quarter and then to the first possession of the second quarter really just summed up the entire year. Okay, so I'm just
yeah,
going to go over you the lowlights of the first quarter.
okay,
So the Browns get a 3-and-out on the first drive. You hold
right,
Patrick Mahomes, maybe the best to ever do it. He's right up there with Tom Brady for the GOAT. 3-and-out, muff punt. Defense gets a short field. Kansas City scores a touchdown. Not on the defense. And this seems like this is happening all year. Like the defense has had their backs against the wall. First quarter, we had not one, not two, but 3 procedural penalties on the offensive line. 2 on back-to-back plays. They finally get something going. Down 7-0. Jameis throws an interception in the end zone. Tell me when you've heard this story before.
it sounded familiar. It sounded really, really familiar.
First play of the second quarter, Browns have the ball about midfield. A pitch to the short side of the field to Jerome Ford goes for -1 because you know how much we love pitches to the short side of the field here on the I-71 Playbook podcast. They go to third down. We get a hold. And we punt. And there's another procedural penalty, an eligible man downfield. So, PSA, you know, I love my public service announcements. Bubba Ventrone, you may want to get your resume ready, buddy. This has been, I've watched a lot of bad Brown seasons. I've watched a lot of bad football. This by far is the worst special teams unit I have ever seen. Maybe college, football, high school. I have never seen a special teams unit that has been so, I don't know if it's preparation, it's discipline, but I remember when Bubba Ventrone got signed, and you know he was one of these up and coming coordinators. They were talking about this is a future head coach in the NFL. They were like mentioning him like John Harbaugh. He's going to go from special teams to, I mean, that was just 2 years ago when they brought him on and they brought Jim Schwartz on, and yeah, that dude,
Yeah,
he's not making it past Black Monday this year.
I don't think so.
Also, you know, Ken Dorsey, you might want to try to be a quarterback coach because offensive coordinator ain't swinging it. And then, yeah, it just there's going to be changes in Berea. You know, I know it was really timely. Mary Kay's article came out and you know said that Stefanski and Barry were safe.
Oh, my favorite person.
Hey, you know what? Here, I'm not gonna lie. She knows more than most of us when it comes to insight.
She does.
She's usually
But
she's usually batting 100 when it comes to stuff happening in Berea. I'm pretty sure her and Dee Haslam probably have tea or something, or I don't know what they're doing. But Mary Kay gets the scoops. She knows what's going on. You know, there was no Taylor Swift today, so we didn't get that. Taylor didn't show up. But what we did get was 97 mentions of Travis Kelce being from Cleveland Heights. Did you know he was from Cleveland Heights?
no, really?
Charles Davis and Iron Eagle. By the way, one of the best. We got an A team. I mean, that's a great crew there. Yeah, they just couldn't stop talking about how Travis Kelce grew up a Browns fan and how he was from Cleveland Heights. Finally, I did have one big thing that I literally cheered out loud for today.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Harrison Butker, this one's out to you. Glad you nubbed that one, buddy. I do not like that man.
I know.
I do not like
Absolutely not. Like, you and I have had several animated conversations to where I can use the words that I normally use in regards to Harrison Butker. But no, watching him absolutely hoof that field goal attempt.
I have never.
I'm pretty sure you could hear me laughing and cackling.
I audibly cheered out loud when he muffed that kick, and then you know, I may have wished harm on his knee, and I hate being that guy, but I really don't like.
No.
I know, right?
No,
He brings me into a dark.
He came back and bit us.
He puts me in a dark spot.
I understand.
I didn't say it out loud.
I would tell you to embrace the dark side.
I didn't say it out loud. My
What you just did though,
my
and
no
now
no
it's
no no
recorded.
no no my cis side came out. I couldn't help it. Yeah, no, when I saw his knee kind of buckle on that kick, I'm like, whatever. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. So anyway,
Could have not happened to a nicer guy. I do have one more thing for you.
shoot.
If a face palm, if a perpetual face palm was a person, that person would be Jamari Thrash. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Is he was just everywhere where he did not need to be, and then you've got Jameis that throws an absolute dime to him. He's wide open, and for some reason he forgets he goes to work today. Oh, there's a ball coming at my face. What do I do? Oh, tilt my head back and let it hit my face mask, and then oh wait, put my hands up.
If your name's not Jerry Judy,
Sure.
if your name's not Jerry Judy, you had a bad day today. Actually, you know what? Jerome Ford played a pretty good ball game as well. But yeah, I guess that we have that to look forward to. It looks like we have a number one, a bona fide number one. That guy runs routes. That guy's got elite speed. He seems to catch everything. And I like watch him like I'm starting to watch him like Cowboys watch CeeDee Lamb or, the Bengals watch Jamar Chase. I'm getting those kind of vibes that this guy can be special. Hopefully he gets
special.
and he's doing this with pretty bad quarterback play this year. He got 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. And I think he's fourth in the league in receiving yards right now. And he's done that with Deshaun Watson. And, Jameis had some big games, but Jameis throwing it all over the field.
You know what? And I don't want to say that because you know what? I like Jameis as a person. Like I've grown to like Jameis as a person.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, we got to go. First of all, we have to roll with DTR now because the kid is in his second year with the Browns. And they don't know what they have in him, truthfully. They wheeled him out a couple of times last year, and he got absolutely sacrificed. From what I've read about him, from what I've seen about him, I think he can be a serviceable quarterback. I think he can get the job done. But we need to know. So my petition is the last 3 games, it's the DTR show. We got to see what he's got.
And I think you're going to get what you're asking for. I think it was pretty clear. Kevin Stefanski would not commit to Jameis today in the press conference. A couple things. Jameis, once again, it's grown on me. Never a big fan of Jameis Winston, but, he's grown on me. I wanted him to be the guy. I think we all wanted him to be the guy and just, have that solved, especially after the couple big games he had. He's obviously he's not the guy, and this is to Cleveland fans. You want to start looking at quarterbacks coming out. I don't know if you're gonna. I don't know if you lose the next 3, you might get a shot at Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. I was listening to Quincy Carrier's podcast. He's got me kind of convinced that Drew Aller from Penn State, if he comes out, would be a great fit. If Kevin Stefanski is still our head coach, and I think he's going to be, but you lose next 3 and it looks pretty bad. You don't know. Jimmy seems to have a quick trigger in Berea. Little erratic. It seems to be a little erratic at times.
Erratic, yes, but a quick trigger. He kept Hugh Jackson for 1-15, who then turned around and followed that up with 0-16. There was no quick trigger there. That was a slow and painful burn for all of us.
But let's be honest. That was part of the plan. That was part of the plan. That was about getting Miles. That was about getting Baker. I mean, seriously, that was about having number 1 draft picks. And Sashi Brown did his job, and then he got axed.
Ooh, there's a name I have not heard in.
Yeah, and they brought Dorsey in, who's tearing it up right now in Detroit. Who left Cleveland. But that's another pod for another day. But yeah, I just as we kind of wrap it up with Browns, some things we know. I know Mary Kay said that Deshaun Watson was going to come in and he was going to compete next year. I'm really confident. I'm as confident on this one as that place. Once I saw the Berea plans, I'm like, that place is going Berea. I'm as confident as Deshaun Watson will never suit up again as a Browns quarterback. They just have to. They can't just, once again, that becomes a union problem if they come out against him and say he's not going to be invited back. The dead cap hit, you can't cut him. We know Jameis is not the guy. So, two Browns fans out
100%.
there, start looking at your draft boards, doing your mock drafts. We're back in business with a first round pick this year. It's good old Cleveland Browns football.
Woohoo! Um, just one more thing before we switch to some happier football news. So you mentioned that he is going to compete, right, next season
According to Mary Kay's article.
for what, to be a towel boy, or I'm confused. I have questions, but
So I was perusing social media about Mary Kay's article, and there seemed to be this joint concern from Cleveland fandom that meant Deshaun had a chance to be the starting quarterback. I think if anything, it was the opposite. I think that was a message to Deshaun's camp that, look, you're not the guy coming back. If you want to try to work out some kind of agreement to get out of here, to go somewhere else, cool. You'll be invited to the Greenbrier, but you certainly are not going to be handed a job, which I think for Deshaun would be pretty embarrassing. And I don't think he's going to put himself into that, because if we know anything about Deshaun Watson other than the obvious, that dude's got an ego. And I don't think he's going to allow himself to compete for a job that he's getting paid next year upwards of $80 million.
mm-hmm.
Is that about right?
Sounds
So,
about right.
so, so I think that was strategic. I think the Browns put that out there on purpose, and I think that was a public message to Deshaun's camp. If you want to try to work something out to get out of this, we'll talk. But you're not starting next year. So, so to Cleveland fans out there who saw that report and that were deathly afraid of Deshaun Watson coming back to be your QB1, it ain't happening. Once again, let's start looking at the draft and see if anybody fits that bill. It's one of those years where they say, oh, it's a down quarterback class, but I'm guaranteeing one of those kids that comes out is going to be good, and he's going to be good real soon. So, that's enough for the draft talk. Let's talk about this game coming up this week in the first ever playoffs.
Well, there is something I do want to talk about, though, before we get into our Buckeyes.
Okay, let's shoot.
There's some controversy going around because it's bowl season, and I want to talk about a former opponent, our week 3 opponent. So Marshall, the Thundering Herd, came into Columbus, week 3, and for that first half looked pretty formidable.
They played well. That was not a team that came into Columbus intimidated.
No,
they were not. They were well coached. And I know that's kind of where we're going here, but they were well coached. They were prepared, and they were not afraid of the Buckeyes.
So you talk about being well coached. So their coach, for week 3, was a gentleman by the name of Charles Huff. Has coached, kind of bounced all around. Did some time with Nick Saban at Alabama. He actually was in the Big Show with the Buffalo Bills organization, and then finds himself at Marshall in 2020. Basically, goes 32-20 from the 21 season until the 24 season. So actually, it's 3 years. This year goes 10-3. They had one more loss than the Buckeyes did.
Yeah, I mean, double-digit wins. That's a successful season, no matter how you shake it out.
Goes 7-1 in conference, and one of your 3 losses was to, at the time, I want to say we were ranked, number 2 in the country?
I believe so, yeah. I believe that was Texas and then Ohio State, yeah.
The box score did not really show that game. I mean, because they really hung in. So he also, just a couple of weeks ago, took Marshall to their very first Sun Belt Championship and won, which was also their first conference championship game in 10 years. So with all of that on your resume this year, going into a contract year, you would think this man is about to get paid.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
You would be wrong. You would be absolutely wrong.
Yeah,
They could not come
you
to an
knocked me
agreement.
down right there. Just knocked me
I
down.
did. I am not going to bury the lead. They could not come to an agreement, and Coach Huff said, "All right, understandable." So the day after Marshall wins their championship, it is announced that he is not only leaving Marshall, but he has taken a job as the head coach of a rival school. So he stays in conference and he goes to Southern Mississippi. Now, Southern Mississippi is kind of like the Purdue of the Sun Belt.
Okay.
I believe they had a 1-10, maybe something like that. It was horrible. They won one game, lost everything else. So the worst team in the conference. So now you have the coach who's literally just won your championship saying, I'm coming to your program. What's also really, really interesting is I want to say upwards of 30 players.
Yeah, it was 25 the last count I heard.
This morning when I was doing prep, I want to say it was closer to 30.
It probably has increased, yeah.
They all hit the portal.
Yeah.
And they are following him to Southern Mississippi University. Now, my question is, though, because it's a little similar to the situation that Deion Sanders did when he left Jackson State for Colorado.
I was just thinking about Jacksonville State. I really was just thinking about them and Deion, because this is what happened. And also, let's talk about Indiana this year and James Madison. Like, very, very similar situations.
Yep. So, but with Deion, it was announced that he was going. Obviously, he's taking his sons. And he put the word out saying, if you're not ready to put in work, if you're not ready to rebuild and be here for what we're to be here, you need to hit the portal.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with our favorite coach, well, my favorite new coach, Cignetti coming in from James Madison, to Indiana. So, but here's my question to you, though. How many of our current roster right now, if that was the same situation in Columbus, to where Ryan Day was looking at a contract extension and the university has gone, I don't know, Ryan, your just for men's budget is getting a little up there.
Lay off the beard. Lay off the beard.
No, I will not. The day that I will get off that man's Sharpie beard is the day he stops growing it or coloring it in. I'm sorry, not growing it in, because that's not natural.
He's got that Hollywood Hogan heel beard.
It is literally Hogan's heel turn in the NWO. Like,
it really is.
I get it. It just clicked with me now. That's all I'm gonna say.
You are welcome.
Ruiner of Sunday evening. Thank you. So, my question, though, is how many players, though, do you think would actually follow Ryan Day anywhere?
So that is an interesting question. The logistics with Ohio State, I don't think many do. Ohio State is going to be paying you the NIL money. You can't. I mean, it's a top 3 job. It's a top 3 job in college football. We talked about that last week.
Yep.
And There's nothing that a coach leaving Ohio State, whether it was Ryan Day, Urban Meyer, Jim Tressel, whoever, maybe Tress. I mean, those guys are pretty dedicated. I had a buddy of mine who played for Jim Tressel at YSU, and those guys still see him as coach. I don't think they leave. I think Ohio State says, hey, you know what? We can pay you more than anybody else, so why don't you just stay here and skip the portal? I don't and plus, to be honest with you, after this game against Michigan and just some of the chatter that I've heard on the interwebs, it didn't seem like the players were at all happy with the game plan. They weren't happy with the situations they were put in. I think we talked about, I'd heard there was a players-only meeting Then they brought
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Day in to voice their grievances, and then he seemed to kind of poo-poo it. And once again, that's just hearsay. It's just stuff you're hearing. It
It
just
is.
doesn't seem like he has garnered enough loyalty out of that locker room that if he headed out and went somewhere else, that they would follow.
So here's another question for
Shoot.
you. With just to kind of jump on that, do you think he's lost the room?
We'll see Saturday night. Um, I we'll see. I know Tennessee's going to pose some problems, and they're very defensively very similar, like Michigan. They have a really good front four. Their edges. They're going to be playing on Sundays. Um, you know, Ohio State needs to do what they should have done against Michigan. They need to stretch out the defense. They need to throw downfield. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't do that for whatever reason. They wanted to try to bully Michigan, and they couldn't. Obviously, if they go with that game plan Saturday night, Ryan Day might be looking for a new job, and I don't care what the AD
I mean,
says.
he might be looking for a new job anyway, but I mean,
Yeah, it's possible,
kind of
but I think
to say,
I think he's playing for his job, and I think he. I don't necessarily think he has to run the table, but he's got to win a couple of these games, and you got Tennessee, then Oregon. I mean, it's a rough draw.
yeah,
It's a rough
it is
draw.
a rough draw. And especially so, let's kind of talk about that. We got a playoff game in the shoe coming up Saturday night, big times.
I'm so excited about this.
I am too. I mean,
I didn't price
but
tickets, but I would love to. Like you can see, I got the shoe behind me. Like I love that place. I absolutely love that place.
you know what? It is on my bucket list. I am a horrible Ohio State fan. I have actually never
It,
witnessed a game in the shoe.
so I got to go to the Purdue
And yeah,
game.
I handed my fan card tonight. This is
I got to go to the
God,
Purdue game.
top three, man. It's all going down in flames.
Like I said, I got to go to the Purdue game this year. I went down with some friends and tailgated a couple times
Hmm.
before the Purdue game. Went down for the Indiana game. Just watched the game at the tailgate.
Hmm.
Friends of mine have an awesome setup, and just what an experience. Like I said, I mentioned last week, I'm currently still a Brown season ticket holder. Uh, I would have traded those in a heartbeat for Ohio State tickets. The atmosphere is better. The product is obviously better. No matter what we think about Ryan Day, the guy wins. Maybe not the big one, but he wins. You're going to compete for a national title every year, and yeah, it's just I highly advise you get to a game down there, and it could be an early MAC game or whatever. Once again, we do not disparage the MAC here on the I-71.
You do not.
We do not. Okay, the playbook does not disparage the MAC. Those guys are D1s. They are great athletes, but it doesn't matter. It's just such an awesome atmosphere in Columbus. Uh, Saturday night I heard. I can't remember who I heard. They were like, "Oh, there might be a fear if Ohio State comes out slow that they'll start booing." They're not going to boo the Buckeyes.
No, they weren't booing the
No.
Buckeyes. Period. They were booing Ryan Day and Chip Kelly.
Yeah, but even that, like, a playoff game, that place is gonna be rocking. Tennessee, hope you got your silent counts all ready to go because you're not going to be able to hear. And I think it's gonna be a fun game. I think it's gonna be a close game.
I think it's going to be a good game because just looking at some stats. Now, mind you, they've got a true
Yeah,
freshman quarterback,
and he's gonna be good. He's gonna be good.
and
Not that he's not
um,
good now, but he's gonna be a player.
Nico Iamilava. And if I pronounced that wrong, I am so sorry.
Oh, it's
I apologize.
pretty good.
But you know what? So for the season, kid's got 19 touchdowns. He's only got 5 interceptions, and he's thrown for 2,512 yards. I mean, that's as a freshman.
And he's threat to run. Like he's got some legs too.
He's got legs too,
So
so that's always fun. So, but some other fun stats because I'm a stats nerd at the end of the day, and so away games over the season, um, threw for 84 of 132. So it's only about 65%. For about 987 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Now, what's also really fun is non-conference, which this is going to be a non-conference game. 65 for 90, 907 yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So we've kind of got numbers on our side.
Well, yeah, I'd be interested to see that non-conference schedule. The SEC tends to really cherry pick the non-conference schedule.
That is also true.
And by the way the playoffs are now, if I'm Ohio State, I don't play anybody good except for in the Big Ten. I'm not bringing any big name in here. The days of playing Notre Dame and Texas and those games at the beginning of the year, USC's now in the Big Ten, but you know what I mean. Historically, bringing in good programs to try to you don't need to do that anymore. Just
you don't
win your schedule.
And also, our week 1 of next year is we're getting Texas.
Yeah, it's Texas in the shoe
at home. Like, oh boy! And I understand this schedule was created 10 years ago when Texas was having a rough spot. I get it. However,
Arch Manning, week 1.
Week 1, really?
Getting Arch.
Good grief.
So we know I just played that game in NCAA 25 and. Julian Sane outdueled Arch Manning for the victory, so I'm feeling good about the Buckeyes next year. Yeah, like I said, as you're making those schedules, a few years out, like if I'm in the SEC or if I'm in the Big Ten, I'm not playing any big out conference games. There's just no reason to.
No,
Indiana is your proof positive. You don't need to do that.
We're not getting back on talking about Indiana and their schedule, but anyway, with how many teams that are in the Big Ten?
Yeah.
There's 18 teams. You don't have to schedule out of conference games.
And if you look at Ohio State's schedule and they get past Texas, they got Penn State at home. The only other scary games, and they might not even be scary by that time, is you have to go to Camp Randall and play Wisconsin. You got to go to Washington, and then you're at the Big House, and once again, Ohio State has it next year. If they can withstand, even if they lose to Texas, they have it in front of them to make a national title run again next year.
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean it's there. They do not have a tough schedule. I hate saying that because you never know what happens in a year with the portal and stuff and recruiting. Right. But from right now, our 2024 view, their 2025 schedule is not scary at all, other than that Texas game and Penn State early on. But Penn State once again is in the shoe this year. So, and if Drew Aller does go to the NFL, they're going to be rocking a first-year quarterback like Ohio State will be. So, because I'm pretty sure Julian Sane's going to be the guy next year, as Devin Brown hit the portal.
I believe he has.
Yeah,
and you know what?
Did. Yep.
So the thing about that is, I like Devin Brown. I love the kid. I really do. He's a good kid with a great head on his shoulders. A true testament of that is he is hitting the portal. However, he is also waiting until after the season is completely over to leave. So he is staying with Ohio State.
Take note. Take note, Marshall players. Take note.
Well, we'll see what.
I feel bad for the kids that are staying at Marshall because they're going to lose out in their bowl game. They're not going to be able to play in a bowl game.
Marshall has opted out of it. They did. They opted out of their bowl game against Army.
So sad.
So
sad.
It is sad for those kids that are staying.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's a testament to what a good coach can do for a program.
Yeah.
But what Devin Brown, honestly, I wish him absolutely nothing but the best. The kid is a good quarterback.
Yeah.
He really is. Clearly, because he was battling for a starting spot last year. He was battling for a starting spot this year. And I think in any other program, he's going to be a starter.
Oh, absolutely. He's going to pick his program this year.
Absolutely. And I think, and as much as it pains me to say this, I think he's going to have a resurgence like Kyle McCord did at Syracuse this season. So I think the kid is crazy talented. However, in this particular program, and because the expectations are so high and there's so much competition, unfortunately, you've got great kids who get buried in the depth chart.
Oh yeah, I mean
and that's nothing about who they are as a player, or anything like that. So, Devin Brown, you are going to be amazing wherever you choose to go because it is going to be dealer's choice for you.
Yeah, he's gonna have a pick of the litter. Like you said, also just respect. It seems to be respected by his teammates. I think about that where Will Howard got hurt briefly, and he threw that absolute BB to no pun intended to Jeremiah Smith, and he one handed it for a touchdown. I think it was a Michigan State game, and then it was the only play he was in. Just casually throws a touchdown, goes back out, and you could just see the team was so happy for him.
Right.
So as we're getting ready to wrap up here, question for you: prediction time. What's going to happen Saturday night?
Well, it depends. Honestly, it's going to depend on what team shows up because hopefully Ohio State has been looking at Tennessee only. And I think one of the things that came back to bite us in the behind with the Michigan game is I really think the team as a whole, especially the coaching staff, was looking ahead, okay, it is the game. Michigan's on a down year. We're at home. It's fine. Let's look to whoever we're going to take in the first round. Let's get that revenge game against Oregon. Let's focus ahead. And they didn't see, the forest through the trees. So I think if they come into this game, obviously they're going to come in mean. They're going to come in with something to prove. And you know what? When we play like we've got something to prove, case in the Indiana game, you make things known. Tennessee is going to give us fits because, one, they do play that SEC smash mouth style of football that Ohio State has kind of struggled with over the years.
And with that, BB, score predictions.
Oh,
Now I want to lay it out there. Ohio State is a 7.5 point favorite currently. So over a touchdown.
Over a touchdown.
So Vegas likes Ohio State in this game.
I think if we get to them early, and I think if our crowd and our defense can kind of shake their freshman quarterback off kilter a little bit, I think we've got a chance. I'm still saying it's going to be a dogfight. I'm still saying it's going to be close. And Chip Kelly, I know you're not listening to this, but I'm going to give you a little advice from Miss Sandra Bullock, and I'm going to tweak it a little bit for your situation. Throw the damn ball, please and thank you. But I still think it's going to be close. I'm saying it's going to be 31-27. I don't think we're going to beat the point spread. I think it's going to be close.
So it's kind of crazy you said 31. That was a number I had for Ohio State. I think Will Howard has a comeback game. He doesn't seem to be the kind of. I mean, he's consistent in the fact that he doesn't seem to follow a kind of shady performance. Like he's able to shake things. So I think Will Howard. I think the offense gets it going. I like the 31. I have Tennessee with 23 scoring late, and coming down to Ohio State recovered onside kick at the end. I think Ohio State actually kind of controls the game for most of the game, but just can't shake Tennessee. They're gonna be pesky, and I really believe that we're going to get a rematch on neutral ground and at the Rose Bowl. Oregon, Ohio State. It didn't happen in the Big Ten Championship, but I do believe we're going to get that rematch.
That would be like the best birthday present because the Rose Bowl is always on New Year's Day, isn't it?
It is. Well, it normally is. I'm not sure what this new schedule.
Oh yeah, I think they bumped it a little bit.
Yeah.
But that would be the Rose Bowl would be an Ohio State Rose Bowl would be an amazing birthday present. I'm just throwing that out into the universe right now. I'm just saying.
I hope you have a happy birthday then.
I'm hoping to.
Go Bucks.
So, with that being said, from the dog pound to the shoe and everything in between, I'm BB.
I'm BC.
This has been the I-71 Playbook Podcast.